So, is the parliamentary power the future mobilizer of everything? We shall soon find out. It is my great pleasure in that vein to call our next speaker on the stage. Please clap your hands for the Slovenia's President of the National Assembly, Državnog zbora, Madame Urška Klakočar Zupančič, to address us all. Dobrodošli. The floor is yours, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, dear Mr. Speaker. Dear Gordon, thank you for inviting me to this beautiful, beautiful historical city. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin again by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Speaker of the Croatian Parliament and my dear friend, Gordan Jandrokovic, for the kind invitation and the opportunity to address this year's Dubrovnik Forum. It is vital that parliaments remain active participants in international cooperation and that regional initiatives such as this forum include a strong parliamentary dimension. Parliamentary engagement enhances visibility and strengthens public understanding that foreign policy is not solely the domain of the executive branch. Rather, it reflects a broader democratic consensus. Parliaments bring pluralism, transparency, and democratic legitimacy to foreign policy processes. They have the unique potential to foster public trust and reinforce accountability in decisions that shape our country's roles on the global stage. Parliaments not only provide essential political support for government decisions, they also play a crucial role in guiding, scrutinizing, and when necessary, restraining the executive. They can set directions, raise critical questions, and prevent premature or ill-considered actions. Parliament is not merely a legislative body. It is a reflection of political diversity and a vital expression of societal pluralism. Its nature is not monolithic, quite the opposite. It institutionalizes the clash of ideas and interests, offering a structured, ongoing platform for open and orderly debate between competing political visions. It is precisely through its confrontation that Parliament performs its democratic corrective function, ensuring that opposition voices are not only heard, but embedded in the institutional framework through dedicated space and recognized mechanisms for action. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when the geopolitical seismograph is in constant motion. Its tremors ever more frequent and alarming. This is why cooperation is more urgent than ever. If we are to halt the advance of authoritarian regimes, regimes that disregard the values of open, democratic, and multicultural societies, that trample on human rights, the rule of law, and even human life itself, we need a determined, united response from the entire democratic world. Such challenges cannot be met by governments alone, nor by parliaments alone, nor by civil society on its own. We will prevail only if we stand together. One recent example of meaningful parliamentary cooperation was this year's parliamentary summit in Bucha, held as a gesture of solidarity with Ukraine. On the 31st of March, I had the honor of attending the commemorative ceremony marking the 3rd anniversary of the city's liberation. A city where the bodies of 461 innocent civilians were found. That day, the silence spoke louder than any of the speakers. The massacre in Bucha, and in so many other places across Ukraine, is above all a profound human tragedy for those who lost their loved ones. But it is also a brutal, cold-blooded, and arrogant assault on the very values our societies have strived to uphold throughout history: the rule of law, human rights, and democracy. Tragically, today, on the 11th of July, we are also reminded of another horrific crime: the genocide in Srebrenica. As you know, this day marks the 30th anniversary of that atrocity. It stands as a lasting symbol of unspeakable cruelty, but also a stark warning of the dangers of denial, inaction, and the failure to protect civilian lives. These events will forever remain dark stains on the history of modern Europe. They represent the failure of humanity in the face of ideologies driven by destruction and greed, an ultimate expression of human arrogance, in which some presume the right to decide over life and death. They remind us, with painful clarity, of the need to safeguard the fundamental values of civilization, values that are most at risk in times of war, conflict, or rising intolerance. At the Bucha summit, the speakers of parliament adopted a joint statement unequivocally condemning Russian aggression. The declaration reaffirmed full respect for Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity with its internationally recognized borders. It also called for the establishment of a special tribunal to address the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Subsequently, on the 25th of June this year, an agreement was signed in Strasbourg between Ukraine and the Council of Europe to establish such a tribunal. The court, based in The Hague, will have the mandate to investigate, prosecute, and try Russia's political and military leadership for launching the war of aggression against Ukraine in February 2022. Was this historic step the direct result of the parliamentary declaration adopted in Bucha? Certainly not on its own, but it was undeniably part of a broader international effort, an effort in which parliaments provided vital political support and moral clarity. It is also incumbent upon us to act with an equal determination to protect the rights and lives of Palestinians, just as we are doing in the case of Ukraine, lest be we justly accused of applying double standards. It is also incumbent upon us, as I said, to do this. When we speak of Russia's military aggression against Ukraine, we cannot ignore its impact on the European Union's enlargement policy. After a long period of so-called enlargement fatigue, it has become evident that Europe's security cannot rest on strategies that lack the means for effective implementation. In response, the EU has accelerated accession procedures for Ukraine and Moldova, while also, at least in part, revitalizing the accession process for the countries of the Western Balkans. As I have emphasized on many occasions, Slovenia's position on EU enlargement is unequivocal. We are strong and vocal advocates of enlargement, both towards the Western Balkans and the Eastern Partnership countries. On this issue, there is no division between the coalition and the opposition in the National Assembly. Slovenia, along with the National Assembly, will continue to support candidate countries on the European path and work actively to accelerate the implementation of reforms necessary for EU members. At the same time, we expect candidate countries to demonstrate clear political will and make every effort to advance effectively toward EU accession. Despite some positive momentum in recent months, the fact remains that the EU enlargement process is still moving too slowly. At the same time, the situation in the Western Balkans remains highly fragile, with a real risk of escalating instability. These warning signs reinforce the urgency of political cooperation and the importance of multilateral engagement. Even those who remain skeptical of enlargement must now recognize that the process is not only necessary, but also the most effective way to counter the influence of third actors and to pursue one of our shared strategic objectives, strengthening the European Union as a credible and capable global actor. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like to return to the role of parliaments, specifically in the EU enlargement process. I firmly believe that parliaments, as guardians of democratic accountability, are key enablers of further integration. They also play a crucial role in strengthening public support for the European project. By fostering public debate, parliaments help deepen understanding and build the consensus needed to shape the future of the Union. A Union that does not merely follow, but one rather leads with confidence. A Union that acts as a driving force for a fairer, more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future. Enlargement is, of course, in the interest of candidate and potential candidate countries, but it is equally in the strategic interest of the European Union itself. I therefore welcome the growing recognition that in order to act more swiftly and effectively, the EU must reduce the number of decisions that require unanimity. Let us be clear, enlargement is not an act of charity, it is a geopolitical imperative. It is an investment in peace and in our shared security. Real efforts must therefore focus on helping candidate countries meet the necessary criteria as soon as possible, rather than introducing additional conditions on interim benchmarks that risk delaying progress. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when change is happening at extraordinary pace, transforming the way we work, communicate, and govern. The European Union is increasingly recognizing digital transformation as one of its strategic pillars, an approach that is now directly reflected in the enlargement negotiations and in the expectations placed on candidate countries. Allow me then to conclude my remarks by briefly addressing this vital dimension. Digital transformation is not only a strategic objective of the EU, it is now an integral component of the enlargement process itself. Candidate countries must be prepared to join the digital single market, which entails aligning with European standards in areas such as electronic services, data protection, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. Without successful digital transformation, there can be no effective governance, no sustainable economic competitiveness, and no equal participation in the common European space. At the same time, we must acknowledge that digitalization, artificial intelligence, and digital media, while offering many benefits, also pose serious risks. They have the potential to deepen social inequalities, entrench discrimination, and lead to violations of fundamental rights. Algorithms can reinforce existing prejudices by relying on biased data. They can also create information bubbles that limit exposure to diverse viewpoints, degrade the quality of public discourse, and ultimately undermine democratic processes. Unequal access to digital tools deepens the digital divide, excluding vulnerable groups from full and equal participation in society. At the same time, the widespread collection of personal data poses serious risks to privacy, freedom of expression, and individual autonomy. This is why legal and ethical regulation of the digital space is not optional, it is essential. Without appropriate systemic and normative safeguards, we risk a growing imbalance between technological advancement and democratic oversight, with far-reaching consequences for social cohesion and power dynamics. In this context, it is worth recalling that in June 2024, the European Union adopted the Artificial Intelligence Act, the world's first comprehensive legal framework to regulate this domain. Yet even with this milestone, one must ask, were we fast enough in addressing the real emerging threats, from the erosion of privacy to rising discrimination and the spread of disinformation? Today, there may still be more questions than answers, but what matters most is that parliaments demonstrate the determination and political will to adopt legislation that genuinely protects people's rights and upholds the public interests, even in the face of pressure from powerful global actors and tech giants. Only with such clarity of vision and responsible action can we ensure that the digital age becomes an opportunity for all, not just for a privileged few, and that our democracies remain strong, inclusive, and resilient. This is the speech that was prepared, and now I'll give you my personal speech. Tell me, my dear friends, Where in our way, building the society, have we lost our sense of being human? Today, in this world, we are faced with atrocities, horrors. We are faced with actions that can be labeled genocide. Where in this pursuit of having more and more and more, have we lost our empathy? Why are we watching every night in the news starving children, bodies torn apart, death? And we do what? We prepare speeches. We talk about our values. Are we implementing those values? What is going on? What is going on with this world? Why are we kneeling before powerful countries? Powerful countries that want to be the rulers of this world. European Union was a dream of nations, of countries, different nations, different ethnic groups, different religions. It was a dream, and it has become a reality. Where is this common voice of the European people when it comes to atrocities around the world, whether it be in the vicinity of Europe or maybe a little bit farther away? Why are we silent? Why are we just watching? Or maybe we utter a word or two, but we don't do anything. We don't do anything. Because we have to be honest. Now I'm here in front of you and asking you, don't be silent and don't do nothing. Saving one human life it's worth it. It is worth it. Whether it be from the Israeli side, Palestinian side, Ukrainian side, even Russian side. This is the world that I dream of, and this is why I became a parliamentarian. Because I don't want to stay silent. I don't want to watch children, our future, being destroyed every evening in the news and do nothing. European Union, wake up. It's a time for you to wake up and start living the values, start implementing the values that you so strongly stand on. Democracy, human rights, the rule of law, the protection of humanity. Are we really so driven by capital that we do not see what is happening in front of our eyes? The capital is not our future. The children are our future. They will live when we are long gone. The history is not merciful. It will judge us. Sooner or later. I do hope that humanity will win. I do hope that the European Union will stand on its feet and really start doing what it has been saying for so many years. Humanity over everything. For me, this is the right path. And I have many more colleagues in the National Assembly that think as I do. And that is why I think the parliaments should stand up and should start creating foreign policy. Because people, we represent the people in our countries. And the people are good in their hearts. Most of them, they are good. So why not implement the goodness that we have? When you go home, don't be silent. Do something. Start speaking for humanity. I'm often described as being too idealistic. But I will stay idealistic because someone has to be. For the right values. I don't care about all the capital, all the material goods in this world. I don't care about them. I don't want to be in the Oval Office. I don't want to be the ruler of the world. But I want to live in a world where my children will have the future, where they will be free and safe at the same time. Please excuse me for my words. I hope I have not offended anyone. I wish you a nice stay here in Dubrovnik, a historical city, a free city and a safe city. And I hope that next time we see each other, if we see each other, it will be maybe in a little bit better world. Because today, the times are not so nice, but we can change them. We can. And it starts with one single step. Every one of us can do it. For humanity, dear friends. Humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Všeč, strong speech for this continuation of the Dubrovnik Forum. That's how you do it.